Imagine writing your own will at 34. Not because you're dying, but because you've already decided there's nothing left worth living for. Rafael Costa, heir to a billion-dollar empire, sits alone in his glass office, overlooking a city that never stops moving, and writes the final words of a man who has everything except a reason to stay. He believes he's in control of his ending, that wealth can buy even the right to disappear with dignity. But he doesn't know that in 3 days, a woman with calloused hands and a borrowed coat will walk into his mansion and quietly dismantle every wall he's built around his heart. Can a man who planned his own goodbye learn to say hello again? Stay until the end, and if you believe love can rewrite even the darkest ending, like this video and subscribe. The pen stops. Rafael stares at the document in front of him. Black ink on cream paper, legal and cold. His signature sits at the bottom, elegant and final. Everything divided, everything decided. His younger sister inherits the companies, his mother, the properties. Charities he's never visited will receive donations that sound generous in print, but mean nothing to him. He feels nothing, no relief, no sorrow, just the dull hum of a decision made. Outside, the city glows gold and blue beneath the twilight. Traffic moves like blood through veins. Life, everywhere, except here. He closes the folder, places it in the top drawer of his desk, locks it. Done. His phone buzzes. He ignores it. It's been 3 months since the accident, the one that didn't kill him but should have. 3 months since he stood at the edge of that cliff in the Alps, since the car flipped, since he woke up in a Swiss hospital with a fractured spine and a doctor telling him he was lucky to be alive. Lucky. He'd laughed at that. A bitter, broken sound. Because lucky men don't bury their fathers at 16. Lucky men don't build empires out of grief. Lucky men don't realize at 34 that every relationship they've ever had was a transaction. He walks to the window, presses his palm against the cold glass. The will wasn't born from despair. It was born from clarity. He's tired. Tired of performing. Tired of being Rafael Costa, the untouchable heir, the man everyone wants something from. Tired of smiling at galas, signing deals that mean nothing, sleeping in beds that feel like tombs. He doesn't want to die. He just doesn't know how to live. His mother calls again. He declines it. She'll ask about the charity dinner next week. She'll remind him to smile, to charm, to be the son the world expects he can't. Not anymore. The housekeeper quit 2 weeks ago. She'd worked for the family for 12 years. But after Rafael returned from Switzerland, different, distant, silent, she couldn't bear it anymore. "You've changed, Mr. Costa," she'd said quietly, folding her apron. "And I don't think I can watch you disappear." He hadn't argued, so the agency sent someone new. Her name is Clara Bennett. She arrives on a Wednesday morning, early, while the house still smells like last night's silence. Rafael is in the library staring at a book he's not reading when he hears the front door open. Footsteps, soft, careful. He doesn't move. A woman appears in the doorway, mid-20s, plain dress, brown hair pulled back, eyes cautious but steady. She's holding a worn leather bag and a coat too big for her frame. "Mr. Costa?" Her voice is quiet, respectful, but not afraid. He looks at her for a long moment. She doesn't flinch. "You're the new housekeeper." "Yes, sir." He nods once. "The house is large. Don't bother me. Don't ask questions. Do your work and leave." Most people would bristle. Most would apologize, retreat, obey. Clara just tilts her head slightly, studying him the way you'd study a painting you don't quite understand yet. "Understood," she says. Then she leaves. And for the first time in months, Rafael feels something. Curiosity. She works in silence. He watches from the shadows of doorways, from the corner of his eye. She doesn't clean like the others did. Rushed, mechanical, invisible. Clara moves through the house like she's listening to it. She pauses at the piano no one plays, runs her fingers along the spines of books no one reads, opens curtains gently, as if the light might hurt. She hums sometimes quietly, a melody he doesn't recognize. On the third day, he finds her in the garden. It's overgrown, wild, forgotten. His father used to tend it. After he died, no one touched it. Clara is kneeling in the dirt, pulling weeds with bare hands. "I didn't ask you to do this," Raphael says from the doorway. She looks up, startled, then wipes her hands on her dress. "I know. I just thought it deserved better. It's a garden. It's still alive." Something in her voice cracks something in him. He turns and walks away before she can see his face. That night, he opens the drawer, stares at the will, and for the first time since he wrote it, he hesitates. Why does a man who's given up suddenly feel afraid to let go? Clara Bennett doesn't ask questions. That's the first thing Raphael notices, and the thing that unsettles him most. She moves through his mansion like a ghost with purpose, present but never intrusive, capable but never proud. She cleans rooms he hasn't entered in years. She waters plants he forgot existed. She opens windows in hallways that have held stale air since his father's funeral. And she never, ever asks why. Why the piano is covered in dust when the sheet music suggests someone once loved it. Why there are 3 place settings in the dining room cabinet, but only one has ever been used. Why a man who owns 12 bedrooms sleeps on the couch in his office most nights. She just exists around the silence, and somehow that makes the silence louder. Raphael finds himself listening for her, the soft pad of her footsteps on marble, the gentle clink of dishes in the kitchen, that quiet humming, always the same melody, something old and tender like a lullaby from a life he's never known. He tells himself it's irritation, but late at night, when the house feels too big and too empty, when his hand drifts toward that locked drawer, her presence stops him, not because she says anything, but because someone is still here. On the 7th day, she does something unexpected. Raphael is in his office, staring at spreadsheets that mean nothing, when Clara appears in the doorway holding a tray. Tea, plain, 2 cups. She sets it on the edge of his desk without a word, pours 1 cup, then steps back. He stares at the 2nd cup. She doesn't explain, doesn't apologize, just nods once and leaves. The tea grows cold, but he doesn't throw it away. His mother visits on Sunday. Cecilia Costa arrives in her usual storm of perfume and expectation, sweeping through the foyer like she still owns it. She's elegant, polished, a woman who spent 30 years turning grief into control. "You look terrible, Raphael." He doesn't argue. She sits across from him in the living room, her gaze sharp, assessing. She's looking for cracks. She always is. "The foundation gala is in 2 weeks. You'll attend?" "No." Her jaw tightens, but she doesn't push. Not yet. Instead, she glances around, and her eyes land on Clara, who's arranging flowers in the hallway just beyond the room. "New housekeeper?" "Yes." "She's young." Raphael says nothing. His mother watches Clara for a long moment, something unreadable flickering across her face. Then she stands, smooths her dress, leans down to kiss his cheek. "You can't hide forever, mio figlio." After she leaves, Raphael finds Clara in the kitchen, hands submerged in soapy water, scrubbing a pot with quiet focus. He watches her from the doorway. She doesn't notice him, or pretends not to. Her sleeves are rolled up. There's a small scar on her left forearm, faded and old. Her hair has come loose from its tie. She's humming again. And something about the ordinariness of it, the simple human act of washing dishes in his cold, lifeless house, makes his chest ache. That night, he dreams, not of the accident, not of the cliff, or the twisted metal, or the moment he thought he'd die. He dreams of his father. They're in the garden. His father is kneeling in the dirt, planting roses, And Raphael is 7 years old, watching, asking why anyone would spend so much time on something so fragile. His father looks up, smiles. Because something beautiful is never wasted, Raphael, even if it only blooms once. He wakes at 3 in the morning, heart pounding, breath shallow. The house is dark and silent, but there's a light on in the kitchen. He moves toward it without thinking, barefoot, still caught between sleep and memory. Clara is sitting at the small table near the window, a cup of tea in her hands, staring out at the garden. She's wearing an oversized sweater, her hair down now, loose around her shoulders. She looks younger like this, softer, lost in thought. Raphael stops in the doorway. She senses him, turns. For a moment, neither speaks. Then she gestures to the chair across from her. He hesitates, then sits. She pours him tea from the pot on the table, slides the cup toward him. He wraps his hands around it, feels the warmth. They sit in silence. Not awkward, not tense, just quiet. Outside, the wind moves through the overgrown garden, rustling leaves no one has raked. Clara's voice is soft when she finally speaks. My father used to say that the hardest thing in the world isn't surviving the storm, it's remembering what sunshine feels like after. Raphael looks at her. Her eyes are steady, kind. Not pitying, just present. He doesn't ask why she said it, doesn't thank her. But his hand, resting on the table, moves an inch closer to hers, not touching, but close enough to feel the warmth. The next morning, Raphael unlocks the drawer. He stares at the will. Then slowly he takes it out, holds it for a long time, and instead of putting it back, he folds it once and places it in his jacket pocket. Not destroyed, not executed, just carried. What happens when a man who stopped believing in tomorrows starts counting the hours until he sees her again? Clara doesn't know about the will. She doesn't know that the man who barely speaks to her carries a document in his pocket, a document that names everyone he'll leave behind, but not the one reason he might stay. She only knows what she sees, and what she sees is a man slowly coming undone. Raphael stops pretending to work. He wanders the house at odd hours, appears in doorways without explanation, lingers in rooms where she's cleaning as if searching for something he can't name. He watches her, not with hunger, not with suspicion, with something quieter, something fragile. Like a man trying to remember what it feels like to be human. It's raining the day everything shifts. Not the soft romantic rain of movies, but the cold, relentless kind that turns the world grey and makes you feel small. Clara is in the garden again, kneeling in the mud, her coat soaked through, pulling weeds with raw determination. Raphael sees her from the library window. For 10 minutes, he watches, waiting for her to give up, to come inside, to admit defeat against the weather. She doesn't. Something in him snaps. He grabs an umbrella, steps outside, crosses the wet grass. She looks up when his shadow falls over her, rain dripping from the umbrella's edge. Her face is flushed from cold. Her hands are trembling. He doesn't say anything, just holds the umbrella over her. She stares at him for a long moment, confusion and something else flickering in her eyes. Then she stands slowly, wiping her muddy hands on her jeans. They walk back to the house in silence, side by side, the umbrella barely large enough to cover them both. Their shoulders touch once, twice. Neither pulls away. Inside, she starts to apologize, to explain, but he raises a hand, disappears into the hallway, returns with a towel, hands it to her without a word. She takes it, their fingers brushing for half a second. He pulls back like he's been burned. That night, he finds her in the kitchen again. It's become routine now. This quiet meeting at midnight, this unspoken truce against loneliness. But tonight is different. Tonight, Clara looks tired, not physically, emotionally. She's holding her phone, staring at a message she hasn't answered. Raphael pours tea, sets a cup in front of her, She glances up, offers a weak smile. He sits, waits. She exhales slowly, sets the phone down. Her voice is barely a whisper. "My brother's getting married next month. He wants me to come home." Raphael's chest tightens. Home. The word feels foreign. "And you don't want to?" She shakes her head. Not in refusal, in conflict. "I haven't been back in 3 years, not since my father died. My family, they don't understand why I left, why I choose to work instead of..." She trails off. "They think I'm running." Raphael knows that feeling, the weight of family expectation, the suffocation of roles you never auditioned for. "Are you?" She looks at him then, really looks at him. "Maybe, but if I go back, I'll disappear into who they need me to be, and I'm so tired of disappearing." The words hang between them like a confession neither expected. Raphael's hand moves across the table, stops just short of hers. His voice is rough, almost broken. "Then don't go." She studies him, searching for something in his face. "Why do you care?" He doesn't answer, because the truth is too dangerous. Because if he says it out loud, that she's the only reason he hasn't opened that drawer in 2 weeks, that her presence has become the only predictable thing in his chaos, that he's terrified of what happens when she leaves, it will make it real. And real things can hurt you. So instead, he stands, walks to the sink, stares out at the rain-soaked garden. His reflection in the window looks haunted. Clara's voice is soft behind him. "You don't have to carry everything alone, you know." His shoulders tense. "You don't know what I carry." "No, but I know what it looks like when someone's drowning." He closes his eyes. She moves closer. He can feel her presence, warm and steady, just behind him. Her hand touches his shoulder. Barely. A whisper of contact. "Raphael." It's the first time she's used his name. It breaks something in him. He turns. They're inches apart now. Too close. Close enough to see the gold flecks in her eyes, the way her breath catches, the concern written across her face like a language he's forgotten how to read. His hand lifts, almost touches her cheek. Then he steps back, clears his throat, leaves the room without another word. Upstairs in his bedroom, Raphael sits on the edge of the bed, pulls the will from his jacket pocket, stares at it. His father's voice echoes in his memory. Something beautiful is never wasted, Raphael, even if it only blooms once. He thinks of Clara in the garden, in the rain, refusing to quit. He thinks of her scarred hands and borrowed coat, and the way she hums when she thinks no one's listening. He thinks of how she stays even though he's given her every reason to leave, and slowly, carefully, he tears the will in half. Not dramatically, not with triumph, just quietly, like a man finally exhaling after holding his breath for years. But when a man decides to live again, does he have the courage to tell the woman who saved him? Raphael doesn't tell her. How could he? How do you explain to someone that they've become your reason without making them responsible for your survival? So he keeps the torn pieces of the will in his desk drawer, not thrown away, not burned, just there. A reminder of what almost was. And he starts doing something he hasn't done in years. He starts trying. It begins small, almost invisible. He eats breakfast in the kitchen instead of skipping it. He showers before noon. He answers his mother's calls, even if the conversations are strained and brief. He walks through the garden in the mornings, noticing what Clara has planted, what she's brought back to life. He doesn't do it for himself. He does it because every time she looks at him now, there's something in her eyes. Hope, maybe, or curiosity. And he's terrified of extinguishing it. But trying to live and knowing how to live are not the same thing. And Raphael is stumbling in the dark. The shift happens on a Thursday. Clara is in the music room, dusting the piano, when Raphael appears in the doorway. She glances up, startled. He rarely comes here. This room belonged to his father. He stands there for a long moment, staring at the instrument like it's a ghost. Then, without explanation, he crosses the room and sits at the bench. His hands hover over the keys. Clara freezes, cloth in hand, afraid to breathe, afraid to break whatever fragile moment this is. He presses a single note, then another. The sound fills the room, hesitant, unpracticed, but hauntingly beautiful. He plays a melody, slow, melancholic, full of longing and loss. Clara recognizes it immediately, the same melody she's been humming for weeks. Her breath catches. He stops mid-phrase. His hands tremble slightly. "My father taught me this. I haven't played since he died." Clara sets down the cloth, moves closer but not too close. "It's beautiful. It's incomplete. He died before he could teach me the ending." The words land heavy between them. Raphael's jaw tightens. He stands abruptly, as if the vulnerability is too much, too fast. But before he can leave, Clara speaks. "Maybe some things aren't meant to have endings. Maybe they're meant to keep going, even unfinished." He stops, turns to look at her. She's standing in a beam of afternoon light, dust motes floating around her like something out of a dream. Her expression is open, earnest, without pity. Raphael feels something crack wide open in his chest. He wants to tell her everything, about the will, about the accident, about the mornings he woke up wishing he hadn't, about how her presence has become the only thing that feels real. But fear closes his throat. So instead, he just nods once and leaves. That night, his mother calls again. Her voice is sharp, brittle. "The board wants to meet with you. They're concerned about your absence." Raphael closes his eyes. The company, the empire, the legacy he never asked for. "Tell them I'll be there next week." A pause, then softer. "Are you all right, Raphael?" The question catches him off guard. His mother rarely asks. She demands, she instructs, she manages, but she doesn't ask. "I don't know." Another pause, longer this time. "Your father used to say that the bravest thing a man can do is admit he's lost." Raphael's throat tightens. "I'm not, father." "No, you're not. But you're still his son." After she hangs up, Raphael sits in the dark for a long time. Then he goes downstairs. Clara is in the living room, curled in the corner of the couch with a book. She's wearing that oversized sweater again, her feet tucked beneath her, looking small and safe and entirely out of place in his cold, expensive house. She looks up when he enters. "Can't sleep?" He shakes his head. She gestures to the other end of the couch. He sits. They don't speak for a while. She reads. He stares at the fireplace, unlit and dark. Then, quietly, almost to himself, "I used to think strength meant carrying everything alone, that asking for help was weakness." Clara closes her book, listens. "But lately I'm realizing that maybe the strongest thing I could do is admit I can't do this by myself anymore." She's quiet for a moment, then her voice soft and steady. "You don't have to figure out all the answers tonight, Raphael. You just have to wake up tomorrow and try again." He looks at her then, really looks at her. This woman who appeared in his life like a quiet storm, who asks for nothing, who stays even when staying is hard, who tends to broken things, gardens, pianos, him, with patient, gentle hands. His hand moves toward hers on the couch, stops halfway. She sees the hesitation, the fear, and slowly, carefully she closes the distance. Her fingers brush his, then hold, not tight, not desperate, just there. Two people in the dark, holding on. Upstairs, later, Raphael opens his laptop, drafts an email to the board, short, direct. "I'll be there Monday, we need to talk about changes." Then he opens a new document, stares at the blank page, and for the first time in months, he starts writing something that isn't an ending. He writes about a garden coming back to life, about music that doesn't need to be finished to be beautiful, about a woman with scarred hands who taught a broken man that surviving and living are not the same thing. He writes until dawn breaks through the windows, and when Clara finds him asleep at his desk hours later, his face peaceful for the first time since she met him, she doesn't wake him. She just drapes a blanket over his shoulders and whispers something he doesn't hear. "You're going to be okay." But what happens when the man who's learning to live realizes he's falling in love with the reason why? Falling in love, Raphael realizes, doesn't announce itself with thunder. It arrives in stolen glances across the kitchen table, in the way his day doesn't feel complete until he hears her humming, in how his chest tightens every time she smiles at something small, fresh coffee, morning light through clean windows, a flower finally blooming in the garden. It's terrifying, because love makes you vulnerable, and Raphael has spent 18 years building walls to ensure nothing could ever hurt him the way losing his father did. But Clara doesn't scale those walls. She simply exists on the other side, patient and steady, until he realizes the walls were never protecting him. They were suffocating him, and now he can't breathe without her. Monday arrives too fast. Raphael stands in front of his closet, pulling on the armor he hasn't worn in months. Tailored suit, Italian leather shoes, the mask of the untouchable heir. Clara appears in the doorway with coffee. She stops when she sees him. Something flickers across her face. Surprise maybe, or loss. "You look different." He adjusts his tie, avoiding her eyes. "I have meetings. The board. I've been absent too long." She nods slowly, sets the coffee on his dresser. "Will you be back tonight?" The question is simple, innocent, but the way she asks it, quiet, careful, as if afraid of the answer, makes his heart crack. "I don't know." She doesn't push, just nods again. But as he walks past her, he catches the scent of lavender and something uniquely her, and he has to fight the urge to turn back, to stay, to tell her that the only meeting that matters is the one in the kitchen at midnight. Instead, he leaves. The boardroom feels like a tomb. 12 men and 3 women in expensive suits, sitting around a glass table, discussing profit margins and expansion strategies like they're dissecting something dead. Raphael takes his seat at the head of the table. His mother is there, perfectly composed, watching him with sharp eyes. The CFO starts the presentation. Numbers, projections, concerns about Raphael's prolonged absence and what it signals to investors. Raphael listens, but his mind is elsewhere. He's thinking about Clara kneeling in the garden, about her hands wrapped around a cup of tea, about the way she said his name that night in the kitchen, soft, like a prayer. The CFO finishes, looks at him expectantly. Everyone waits. Raphael leans back in his chair. "I'm stepping down." Silence, absolute. Stunned, his mother's face goes pale. "Raphael." He raises a hand. "Not from the company, from this." He gestures around the table. "From pretending that sitting in this room discussing numbers makes any of this meaningful. I'll remain majority shareholder. I'll attend quarterly reviews. But the day-to-day operations, the endless meetings, the performance, I'm done." The CFO recovers first. "Mr. Costa, with all due respect, the company needs leadership, visible leadership. Your father." "My father is dead." The words come out harder than he intended, but he doesn't soften them. "And I'm tired of being a ghost of him. Appoint an interim CEO. Find someone who actually wants this, because I don't, not anymore." His mother stands. "We need to discuss this privately." Raphael meets her gaze, steady, certain. "There's nothing to discuss, Mai. I've made my decision." They argue in his father's old office. His mother paces, her composure finally cracking. "You're throwing away everything he built, everything we sacrificed for." "No, I'm choosing something different." "What?" "To hide in that mansion with some housekeeper who—" "Don't." The word cuts through the room like a blade. His mother stops, stares at him. Raphael's voice is low, dangerous. Don't reduce her to that. She's the only person in my life who doesn't want anything from me. The only one who stayed when I gave her every reason to leave. So whatever you're about to say, don't. His mother's expression shifts. Something like recognition, or maybe fear. You're in love with her. It's not a question. Raphael doesn't answer, doesn't need to. His mother sinks into a chair, suddenly looking every one of her 60 years. Oh, mio figlio, what are you doing? I'm trying to live, Mai. For the first time in 18 years, I'm actually trying. She looks at him for a long moment, then quietly, Your father would be proud. The words nearly break him. He doesn't go home, not right away. Instead, Raphael drives to the coast, to the cliff where the accident happened, where he almost died but didn't. He stands at the edge, wind-whipping his suit, staring at the rocks below. 6 months ago, he looked down and felt nothing. No fear, no relief, just emptiness. Now, he looks down and feels everything. Terror, gratitude, longing. He thinks about Clara waiting at the house, wonders if she's humming while she works, if she noticed he didn't touch his coffee, if she's realized yet that she's become the center of gravity in his chaotic, broken world. He pulls out his phone, stares at her contact. His thumb hovers over the call button, then he puts it away. Because some things can't be said over the phone. Some things require presence, proximity, the courage to stand in front of someone and offer them your ruined heart. He drives home as the sun sets, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose. Clara is in the garden when he arrives. She's planted new roses, red ones. They're small, fragile, barely blooming. She looks up when she hears his footsteps. Her face lights up. Relief, joy, something deeper. And Raphael feels his chest constrict. She stands, brushing dirt from her knees. You came back. I'll always come back. The words slip out before he can stop them. Clara goes still. He steps closer, close enough to see the questions in her eyes, the hope she's trying to hide. His voice is rough, unsteady. I need to tell you something. She nods, waiting. But before he can speak, his phone rings. The hospital. His mother collapsed during the drive home. When does a man finally find the courage to speak his heart, only to have the universe remind him that tomorrow is never promised? The hospital smells like antiseptic and fear. Raphael sits in a sterile waiting room, hands clasped between his knees, still wearing his suit from the boardroom, his tie loosened and crooked. Clara sits beside him. She didn't ask to come. She simply appeared at his side when he stumbled back into the house, white-faced and shaking, and said nothing, just grabbed her coat and followed him to the car. Now she's here, in this fluorescent hell, her hand resting inches from his on the plastic chair, not touching, but close enough that he can feel her warmth. Hours pass like wounds. A doctor finally emerges, tired eyes, practiced calm. The words come in clinical fragments: stroke, mild, stable, observation. Lucky. That word again. Lucky. Raphael nods mechanically, thanks him, watches him disappear back through the double doors. Then his hands start trembling. Clara's fingers close around his. She doesn't speak, doesn't offer empty reassurances. She just holds on while something inside him quietly shatters, because he almost lost her, his mother. The woman who raised him alone after his father died, who turned her grief into steel, who built walls around her heart so high that he learned to build his own. And he realizes with sudden, crushing clarity that he's been so angry at her for so long, for being cold, for pushing him, for turning him into an heir instead of a son, that he forgot she was just trying to survive the same loss he was. They were both drowning. They just chose different ways to sink. They let him see her near dawn. She's small in the hospital bed, smaller than he's ever seen her. her silver hair loose against white pillows, machines beeping softly beside her. Her eyes open when he enters. She tries to smile. It trembles at the edges. Raphael sits in the chair beside her bed, takes her hand. It feels fragile, like paper and bone. She speaks first, her voice barely a whisper. "I ruined you, didn't I? Turned you into something hard, something lonely." His throat closes. "My." She shakes her head weakly. "Your father would have wanted better for you. He would have told you to choose love over legacy, to live instead of just survive." Tears slip down Raphael's face before he can stop them. "I didn't know how." "I know. I didn't teach you. I taught you to armor yourself, to never need anyone." She pauses, breathless. "But that girl waiting outside, she taught you different, didn't she?" Raphael can't speak, can only nod. His mother's fingers tighten around his. "Then don't waste it, mio figlio. Don't wait until it's too late to tell her what she means." Clara is asleep in the waiting room when he returns. Her head is tilted against the wall, arms wrapped around herself, exhausted and lovely and completely out of place among the sick and the grieving. Raphael stands there for a long moment, just watching her. This woman who appeared in his life like mercy, who stayed through his silence and his walls and his slow, painful thawing. Who asked for nothing and gave him everything without even knowing it. He sits beside her carefully. She stirs, blinks awake, focuses on him with immediate concern. He shakes his head gently. She's stable, resting. Relief washes over Clara's face. They sit in silence as morning light begins filtering through the windows, turning the sterile room soft and golden. Raphael's hand finds hers again. This time, he doesn't let go. His voice is raw when he finally speaks. "6 months ago, I wrote a will. I divided everything I owned because I couldn't find a single reason to stay. And then you walked into my house with your borrowed coat and your quiet strength, and you didn't try to fix me. You didn't demand anything. You just stayed." Clara's breath catches. "You brought my father's garden back to life. You opened windows I'd kept closed for years. You sat with me in the dark and made it feel less empty. And somewhere between the silence and the tea and the way you hum when you think no one's listening, I stopped wanting to disappear." His thumb traces circles on the back of her hand. "I tore up that will because of you, Clara, because you made me believe that maybe there's something worth staying for. That maybe I'm not just the broken pieces of who I used to be. That maybe I could be someone who deserves—" He stops, swallows hard. Clara shifts closer, her free hand rising to touch his face, gentle and certain. Her eyes are bright with unshed tears. "You don't have to deserve love, Raphael. You just have to let yourself receive it." And something in the way she says it, with such fierce, tender conviction, breaks the last wall inside him. He leans forward, presses his forehead against hers. They stay like that, breathing the same air, existing in the same fragile, perfect moment. No grand declarations, no dramatic kiss. Just two people who've been alone for too long, finally understanding what it means to be found. They leave the hospital as the city wakes up. The streets are quiet, washed clean by last night's rain. Vendors are opening shops. A busker plays violin on a corner. Life everywhere continuing. Clara walks close beside him, their shoulders touching. Raphael feels lighter than he has in years. Terrified, yes. Uncertain, absolutely. But alive. Undeniably, impossibly alive. When they reach his car, he stops, turns to face her fully, takes both her hands in his. The words that matter most are always the hardest to say. But he's done hiding, done running. "I don't know what happens next. I don't know how to do this, to be with someone, to let someone in completely. But I want to try, with you, if you'll let me." Clara looks up at him, eyes shining. And her answer comes not in words, but in the way she rises on her toes, the way her hand slides to the back of his neck, the way she pulls him down until their lips meet. Soft, tentative, achingly real. The city moves around them. But in this moment, they are perfectly, beautifully still. Can two people who survived their own darkness finally learn to walk toward the light together? 3 months later. The garden is unrecognizable. What was once wild and forgotten now blooms with deliberate care. Roses in deep crimson, lavender along the stone path, jasmine climbing the east wall. It's not perfect. Some sections are still overgrown. Some plants didn't survive, but it's alive. Raphael stands at the window of his father's old study, watching Clara move through the morning light, pruning shears in hand, that same oversized sweater hanging off her frame. She's humming. Always humming. He's learned the melody by heart now. Taught himself the ending his father never showed him. Sometimes late at night, he plays it on the piano while she sits curled on the bench beside him, her head resting on his shoulder. Life hasn't become easy. His mother is recovering slowly, relearning how to exist without control as her shield. The board accepted his decision with reluctant respect. The company continues without him at its center, and the world didn't end. He still has hard days. Mornings when the weight of everything feels impossible. Moments when the old darkness whispers that this is temporary, that happiness is fragile, that loss is inevitable. But now, on those days, Clara is there. Not to fix him, not to carry him, just to remind him that he's not alone anymore. She looks up from the roses, catches him watching, smiles. That smile still undoes him every single time. She gestures for him to come outside. He does. The morning air is cool and clean. Dew clings to grass. Birds call from the trees his father planted 30 years ago. Clara takes his hand, leads him to the center of the garden where a new stone bench sits beneath the oak tree. There's an inscription carved into the seat. Something beautiful is never wasted. Raphael's breath catches. He runs his fingers over the words, his father's words, now permanent in stone. Clara's voice is soft beside him. I hope it's okay. I thought he should be here, in the place he loved most. Raphael can't speak. He pulls her close instead, wraps his arms around her, buries his face in her hair. She holds him while something old and wounded finally releases its grip. That afternoon, they drive to the coast, not to the cliff where he almost gave up, to a different place, a quiet beach, empty and endless, where water meets sky in shades of silver and blue. They walk barefoot along the shore, fingers interlaced, not speaking. There's no need. Some silences are full. Clara stops eventually, turns to face the horizon, closes her eyes, lets the wind move through her hair. Raphael watches her. This woman who saved him without trying, who loved him before he knew how to love himself, who stayed when staying was the hardest thing she could do. His voice carries over the sound of waves. I was so sure I knew how the story ended, that I'd written the final page and all that was left was to close the book. She opens her eyes, looks at him. But you didn't know about me yet. He smiles, soft, real. No, I didn't know about you. She steps closer, rising on her toes to kiss him, slow and deep and certain. When she pulls back, her hand rests over his heart. So what happens now? Raphael covers her hand with his. Now we write something new together. 6 months after that, the foundation gala his mother once demanded he attend, he goes. But not as the ghost heir performing his duty. He goes as himself. With Clara at his side in a simple dress that makes her look like moonlight, her hand steady in his as cameras flash and whispers follow. Let them whisper. Let them wonder about the housekeeper who became something more. Let them question the billionaire who chose love over legacy. He doesn't care, because for the first time in his life, Raphael Costa is exactly where he wants to be. His mother approaches during the cocktail hour, moving slower now but steadier, her eyes clearer than they've been in years. She looks at Clara, then at Raphael, then back to Clara. And she does something unexpected. She smiles. Not the practiced smile of a woman playing a part. A real smile. Warm. Grateful. "Thank you for bringing my son back to me." Clara's eyes glisten. He was never really gone. He just needed permission to come home. Late that night, back at the mansion, Raphael finds Clara in the music room. She's sitting at the piano, fingers hovering over the keys but not playing. He sits beside her on the bench, takes her hand, guides her fingers to the keys. Together they play the melody, the one his father started, the one Clara hummed without knowing its history, the one Raphael finally finished. It's imperfect, a little clumsy, beautiful anyway. When the last note fades, Clara leans her head on his shoulder. "I love you." She says it simply, easily, like it's the most natural truth in the world. Raphael turns, tilts her chin up, looks into her eyes. "I love you, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving I was worth saving." "You don't have to prove anything, Raphael. You just have to keep waking up, keep trying, keep letting me love you." He kisses her then, tender and deep and full of promise. Outside, the garden blooms in darkness. Inside, two people who almost gave up have finally found what they were searching for all along. Not perfection, not certainty, just each other, and the courage to believe that's enough. 1 year later. Raphael stands in the garden at dawn, holding a small velvet box, rehearsing words he's written and rewritten a dozen times. Clara appears in the doorway, sleepy-eyed and beautiful, wrapped in one of his shirts. She sees him, sees the box, stops. Her hand flies to her mouth. He doesn't kneel, doesn't perform, just walks to her, takes her hands and speaks from the only place that matters. "You taught me that endings aren't always final, that broken things can grow again, that a man who thought he was finished can start over if someone believes in him enough. So I'm asking you, will you let me spend the rest of my life trying to give you even a fraction of what you've given me?" Tears stream down her face. She nods, can't speak, just nods. He slides the ring onto her finger, simple, elegant, exactly her. And as the sun rises over the garden, they brought back to life together. They hold each other in the golden light. Two people who survived their darkness, who found each other in the ruins, who chose every single day to keep choosing. Love, life, tomorrow. If this story reminded you that it's never too late to start again, that love can find you even in your darkest hour, that broken things can bloom, rate it from 0 to 10 in the comments. And remember, the most beautiful endings are the ones we write ourselves.